The next Saturday night I heard music outside. I walked to my window. Jason and Emily had invited people over. Then I saw something that made my blood run cold. They were carrying my patio furniture across the yard. My chairs, my table, my grill. They had taken everything from my side of the property. Emily was laughing with her friends. Then I heard her say something. She said the guest house would make a great gym. She said I was getting older. She said I would eventually need a smaller place. Then she laughed. Jason stood beside her. Again he said nothing. I did not confront them that night. I went back to my room. The next morning I called my friend Sarah. Sarah had been a real estate agent for almost 30 years. When she arrived I told her everything. Then I said something I had never said before. I want to sell the property. She looked at me carefully. Are you sure? I said yes. This time I was completely sure. The property was worth far more than I had realized. The main house was beautiful. The guest house made it even more attractive. Sarah said buyers would love it. But before doing anything I called my lawyer. I wanted everything handled properly. There would be no revenge. No threats. No illegal eviction. Just a clean legal decision. My lawyer confirmed that the property was mine. So I signed the paperwork. Then I gave Jason and Emily formal notice. The next morning a real estate sign appeared in the front yard. Emily saw it first. She came running toward me. What is that? I looked at the sign. It said for sale. Emily stared at me. You are selling the house. I said yes. Jason came outside. His face turned pale. Mom, you cannot do this. I looked at him. I can. He asked where his family was supposed to go. I told him something simple. That is something you should have planned long ago. Emily started shouting. She said this was their home. I told her it was a place they had been allowed to live. There was a difference. Jason looked at the notice. He finally understood. I was not threatening them anymore. I was leaving. They had spent years assuming I would always be there. They thought the house would always be there. They thought the car would always be there. They thought my money would always be there. They thought my patience had no limit. They were wrong. 8 days after the listing went live, Sarah called me. We have an excellent offer. I accepted. The sale moved quickly. Soon there were inspections. There were paperwork appointments. There were moving boxes. For the first time in 6 years I stopped watching what Jason and Emily were doing. I focused on my own future. One afternoon Jason came to my door. He looked exhausted. He told me they had found a small apartment. I told him that was good. He looked at me. You really do not care anymore. That question hurt. Because I cared deeply. I just understood something important. Caring about someone does not mean destroying yourself for them. I told him that. He looked down. Then he admitted something. He said he should have defended me when Emily talked about my guest house. He said he should have stopped her when she entered my home without permission. He said he should have helped with the bills. Then he said something that made me realize he was finally beginning to understand. You taught us that your boundaries could be ignored. I nodded. He was right. Every time I gave in because I was afraid of conflict, I made the next demand easier. Jason became quiet. Then he apologized. I believed him. But forgiveness did not mean giving everything back. It meant letting go of the anger. The moving day finally came. Jason carried boxes into the truck. Emily barely looked at me. My grandson stood near the driveway holding a small toy. When the truck was almost full, Jason walked toward my door. He asked if he could say goodbye. I said yes. We stood together on the porch. He looked across the yard. Do you remember Dad's old swing? I smiled. I remembered. We talked for a few minutes about the past. For the first time in years we laughed. Not because everything was fixed, but because something real had finally returned between us. Before he left, Jason looked at me. He said he was sorry. I told him I forgave him. Then I told him something else. Forgiveness does not mean we go back to the way things were. He nodded. I think he finally understood. The truck drove away before sunset. The property became silent, and for the first time I realized something. Silence was not loneliness. Silence was freedom. A few weeks later the sale was complete. I packed my things. I said goodbye to the house. That home had held birthdays, Christmas mornings, family dinners, memories with my husband, memories with my son, but memories do not have to become cages. I moved into a beautiful condo near a quiet lake. The first morning I woke up there, I opened the curtains. The water was still. The sunlight was warm. There was no one outside my window waiting for something. No bills were waiting for me. No one expected me to babysit. No one expected me to solve their problems. Every part of my new home belonged to me. A month later Jason called. He asked if he could visit. I said yes. He came alone. He brought pastries from a bakery near his apartment. We sat at my kitchen table. He told me he had been thinking about everything. He finally understood how much I had done for him. He said he had mistaken my love for an endless resource. I told him that I had made mistakes too. I had allowed my fear of disappointing him to become more important than my own peace. Jason reached across the table. He took my hand. He said he was sorry. This time I knew he meant it. Our relationship did not become perfect. It became healthier. Jason started visiting once a month. Sometimes he brought my grandson. Sometimes he came alone. I welcomed him, but I never gave him a key. I never paid his bills. I never rescued him from the consequences of his choices. And somehow that made our relationship stronger. Because now when he came to see me, he came because he wanted to, not because he needed something. As for Emily, she never apologized. At first that bothered me. Then one evening I sat on my balcony and watched the sunset. I realized I did not care anymore. Some people call you selfish when they can no longer benefit from your lack of boundaries. I had spent years trying to prove that I was a good mother. A generous mother. A dependable grandmother. I finally realized something. I did not need anyone to approve of the life I chose for myself. The note on my pillow had once felt like rejection. Now I saw it differently. It was the moment my life began again. Jason told me to stop planning my future around his family. So I stopped. I stopped waiting for permission. I stopped sacrificing my peace. I stopped confusing love with rescue. And I built a life around myself. At 67 I thought starting over would feel frightening. Instead it felt like freedom. Today I sit on my balcony and watch the sun disappear behind the lake. Sometimes Jason calls. Sometimes my grandson visits. Sometimes I spend the whole day alone. And now I know the difference. Being alone is not always loneliness. Sometimes being alone is the first moment you finally belong to yourself. And after everything I had given away, that was the one thing I never planned to lose again.